Hi. Happy, what day is it? Wednesday. I wanted to hop on here. And honestly, this live is literally inspired by one of my clients that I just coached on a call to help him prep for his interview. And the reason I'm here is because I wanted to talk about career fulfillment. I get a lot of people who reach out to me for consultation calls, and there's a part of them that believes that they can change their situation. And then there's another part of them that believes that it's impossible, that it's not even worth trying. And that pains me because I see the possibility for the person. And if only they just got over their mindset blocks, they would be able to change their life to the better, make more money. We're talking like 50 to $100,000 in additional compensation. And honestly, more than the money is just be happy. I just don't like seeing people unhappy. And so this is a live that I'm going to do with no notes, with nothing prepared. No, I'm not using AI. Look at my face. It's impossible for me to use AI to share this with you. Um, okay, let me start with something very vulnerable. Honestly, I've debated sharing this many times. I kind of shared it a little bit here and there in my social media, but I never really got to the detailed version because it was just so tough for me. There's a lot of personal stuff. And um, how do I say this? Sometimes, as service providers and business owners, you worry about sharing too much personal stuff that it starts making people think that you're not capable of what you do. Yes, I share the same fears as everyone. So let me rewind because I want you to understand this message of how career fulfillment is so important. To me, it's so important because there are so many missing parts in my life that I don't have. And I think if I didn't have that career fulfillment, I don't even know what my mental state would actually look like. So, back in 2025, around May, I got diagnosed with what is called vestibular migraines. Actually, I wasn't even diagnosed. I had my first acute episode where I was on a call. I was talking to someone on a call, and then all of a sudden, I just felt like I was going to have a stroke. I felt pressure in my head. I felt like the room darkened. I felt like I was going to fall off on my chair, and I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. I'm 42. So, that's usually the age when you have cardiovascular issues and heart problems and even stroke. It can happen, right? Some people get heart attacks at the age of 42. So that's the first thing that went into my mind. Oh my God, I'm having a stroke. Fortunately, I was able to get off the call. I was lying down in bed, and I remember I was texting my partner at the time and letting him know, and even texting my health coach and letting her know. And I thought, okay, maybe I was working out fasted, that's why this happened. Um, yeah, I thought that it was just, my blood sugar level being off. Anyway, um, the next Monday, this happened on a Friday. The next Monday, I got on another call. I turned on my camera as usual to have a coaching conversation with one of my clients. And the same thing happened to me. I had this insane pressure to the point where it's really hard to describe. It felt like I was going to vomit because of how painful it was. I was confused about what this illness is. And 2 days later, it manifested into a full blown headache where I had to lie down in a very dark room and I just couldn't get out of bed. And I remember talking to a nurse, and she encouraged me to rush to the ER. They did, exams, blood tests, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually I went through the wonderful medical system, and I got diagnosed with vestibular migraines. I realized that this was a migraine, and I never experienced that in my life before. That was a very tough time for me. May of 2025. Try not to, get emotional here on a live, but it got to the point where I felt like maybe I'm doomed and I need to shut down everything. Maybe I just need to go on long-term disability. And it was a very painful thought because I built so much in my business. I worked so hard. I poured thousands and thousands of dollars. We're talking about an investment of $200,000 that I invested into my business. Literally took out a second mortgage to be able to build this business. A lot of it was, building a website, um, getting coaching, um, putting systems in place, building a curriculum, building a course. There was a lot that went into those 6 years because I've been very passionate about really helping people and coming up with frameworks and methodologies that would help people overcome their fear of making changes in their career and being able to market themselves and get found. So, anyways, when this happened to me, and I had the vestibular migraine diagnosis, I remember letting my parents know about this. And I remember my mom was just telling me, like, maybe you should just like sell your property, um, move out of Canada, the country that I lived in for 24 years, after I went through so much to actually enter the country, immigrate, become a citizen, buy my condo, live my life. She was basically encouraging me to leave all of that behind and work at a hotel as a receptionist. Like, yeah, just, throw your 15-year career in the trash, your 15-year corporate career, and forget about all the skills that you've built as a coach who has helped, executives land roles and add $100,000 to their salary, and just, yeah, work as a receptionist at a hotel. So obviously that was very hard for me to hear, but at the same time, I was on this weird medication for my migraines that was causing me to hallucinate, to be honest. And I believed what she was saying, and I was very close to doing that. But there was something in me, there was a voice inside me that was literally reminding me of how every single client that I've worked with has had some kind of similar thought where they doubted themselves and they almost felt like they had to take a step back, burn down their career, or feel like they have to take on an easier or more junior role. And so I asked myself, what would I say to a client if they said this to me? Like, if they were in my situation going through these migraines and having these doubts and all of this stuff, how would I coach them through this? And it's crazy. It's crazy the thoughts that go into your head when you go through something tough and you just need some level of accommodation. Sometimes our brain just goes into extremes, right? I think for me, one of the most embarrassing things that I had to deal with, the new diagnosis of this illness was for a period of time, I could not do any of these lives that I'm doing right now because my condition was so severe and I was not put on any medication. Because remember, I was telling you that I experienced the symptoms in May, but the official diagnosis didn't come until, I would say, July, maybe even closer to August. I was suffering for 3 months, taking Advil and Tylenol. And by the way, when you take Tylenol or Advil for more than 15 days, you actually have rebound headaches. I discovered that the hard way. Like Advil and Tylenol are like candy to me. They really don't do much for migraines that are severe. Like we're talking migraines that hospitalize you, where you actually get IV because, they're just so intense. Um, so anyway, where was I going with this? Yeah, the hardest thing was my lack of social media presence. I could not do videos. I could not, do lives like this. I could not turn my camera on and get on Zoom calls. And I was so embarrassed to tell all of my clients that, hey, I can't turn on my camera. We're going to need to do our calls without the camera on. Now, it's such a funny thing when it comes to accommodation and when it comes to a life event happening to us. We internalize things so much and we start doubting our competency. People come to me and give me all these reasons about why they're not qualified for a role or why they would not be considered in an organization. And a lot of these reasons are silly, like, oh, it's because, I didn't have the title or I had to be out of work for a period of time. And they discount all of the things that they did before. Like I had someone who was a director like 5 years ago, but then she decided to take a whole bunch of like consulting gigs. And now all of a sudden, she thinks that she forgot everything that she did 5 years ago. So I was going through something similar where I was doubting my abilities as a coach because I was worried about what people are going to think. The fact that I can't turn my camera on and have a conversation with him. Like, I can still hear you and I can still coach you. I don't need to necessarily show my face, right? We can have a phone conversation as an example, right? But in my head, I kept convincing myself that I wasn't a good coach just because people couldn't see my face. It's crazy. So, of course, you know, that belief just put me in a spiral of doubting my abilities. My clients got amazing results working with me. I had several clients who landed offers, yet I was so stuck on that belief that just because I couldn't turn my camera on, I wasn't a good coach. So that led into a whole bunch of things, which again, very difficult for me to talk about because as much as in my content, I share a lot of personal stuff, this is still fresh. And for some reason, is very difficult for me to talk about. And I actually now empathize even more than ever with people who have disabilities. I just didn't know what it was like to feel so different compared to other people. Um, but anyway, what happened was a number of things. Because the migraines were unpredictable, I had to be in very controlled environments. If I'm on a coaching call or if I'm coaching clients, it's always a safe environment for me because I can control so many variables. First of all, I'm in my home. There's no background noise. I can reduce the lighting, which won't trigger my migraines, and I can turn my camera off. But when I'm going outside of my home, where there could be so many uncontrolled variables, such as a car, honking, that would trigger my migraines. Um, Lights, I remember meeting a client at a restaurant for my birthday, and I was very triggered and had a very bad flare up because of that, just because I was sitting in a restaurant and people were walking behind me. So motion sometimes is a trigger for me. And there was a lot of background noise, and I was trying to speak to him while the background noise was competing with us. And that is one of the things that drive me crazy when it comes to my migraines when I'm going through a flare up. So because it was very difficult for me to control my environment outside of my home, I started isolating myself socially. I stopped meeting people. I stopped making plans. And of course, I went through a breakup during that time. That was in the breakup happened last May of 2025. I was with someone for 9 years. And I'm not the kind of person who will speak badly about someone. But the reason I'm sharing this is because I know there's a lot of people who go through this and feel alone. And a lot of times when I share my story, it's because I really want to inspire people that they can turn around their situation. And so, yes, I was not in a good relationship. I was with a partner who was not very supportive. And in fact, when we broke up, I was going through a migraine episode and I was getting yelled at while I was going through the migraine. So, anyway, I decided to end the relationship because of that. I had the courage to finally end that very long 9 year relationship, which, by the way, is another parallel to what people experience in the workplace. When you're in a very long, toxic, when you're in a very long, let's say, employment with an organization, a lot of people that I talk to have been with their organization for 5 years, for 6 years, for 7 years, for 8 years, for 9 years, for 10 years. The longer you stay, the harder it is to leave. From a psychological perspective, people have a hard time, leaving because they get comfortable in a relationship. And it doesn't matter what type of relationship it is. It could be a personal relationship, it could be a professional relationship. We are creatures of habit. And so, yeah, I had to use the same skills that I teach my clients to leave this 9 year relationship. And in fact, I felt like a hypocrite for coaching my clients to advocate for themselves and leave situations that don't serve them while I was in that 9 year relationship. So I made that decision. I left. And it was very scary because when you're going through a chronic illness, like I have been, you want that support at home. I kept thinking to myself, like, what if something happened to me? Like, what if I, fell on the ground or got dizzy and fell and I had no one around? But you know what? Isn't it better to actually deal with that alone with a peace of mind versus getting that fake type of support, right? So that's what I realized. And that's what I tell people, when they're leaving organizations. Um, and sometimes it feels daunting because of the uncertainty, right? Like, oh, so if I leave, what's going to happen? Maybe it's going to be worse. But if you don't leave, then what you are doing is you're accepting that this is what you deserve. And I was not going to accept that I would be around someone who would treat me so horribly that even when I'm going through a migraine flare up, I'm being yelled at. And so that's what I want you to think about. So, anyway, I had the courage to leave that relationship of 9 years, despite having a new diagnosis and being at a point where it was even difficult to take care of myself, go to appointments, see doctors, take care of everything on my own, while my parents were pretty much disconnected from me and telling me that, I should just give up and not even try because I'm in too much of a bad health situation. And I was unable to meet people. I was spending days and weeks in my home without leaving. And in all of that darkness and all of these bad moments, the thing that kept me going is how happy I was in my career, or I am in my career, because I love what I do. That sense of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like when you're a musician and you are in the zone playing a song that you are into, and you're so good at your craft that you start, riffing and becoming, creative in your music. And when I was in these coaching calls and I had my camera off, it was so weird. It actually forced me to become a better listener and to really focus on what the person is saying rather than being distracted looking at things on the screen and looking around. Um, and it forced me to actually become a better coach. And the breakup forced me to actually do more of what I enjoy, which was launch my Substack that I'm proud of. I think I have over 100, people who are subscribed at this point, probably more, but I haven't looked. And actually focus on healing. So, my message to you, I mean, I hate to compare, but my message to you is if I was able to go through all of this on my own, take all these risks, change situations that are very scary, then you absolutely can. I get clients who give me a lot of or I get not clients because my clients actually, when they enroll with me, this is when the magic happens. See, I see people making the decision to get coaching as the beginning of them advocating for themselves and believing that they can change their situation. That's how I see it. Now, in all of this darkness of what I went through, and yes, I did not get support from my immediate family, and I didn't get support from my ex partner. There were a lot of coaches who were there for me, and I cannot even imagine what my situation would have been like without their help. One of the people who was there for me was my health coach. Um, I reached out to her because I knew too that migraines, you have to change your diet, your lifestyle, and all of these things. Your nervous system becomes so much more sensitive than the average person that you actually have to work harder to be healthy. And I wasn't willing to be at the mercy of this illness. So I hired her to get that support. And she was one of my biggest support systems, even outside of like talking about diet and nutrition, just encouraging me because she's also a coach and she's an author and she's on social media and just really encouraging me to not give up. Sometimes you just need that person who's going to encourage you. And I feel that when you are an executive and a leader, you're so used to taking care of other people, you're not used to being taken care of. And you actually lack that support more than others. Think about all the individual contributors and your teams that you oversee. Like you give them all the support, you put systems in place for them to have that support. But I actually feel that the higher up you are, the lonelier it gets. And so that's actually what was going on for me as someone who is the CEO of my business and, coaches people. I felt that I also needed support. I was supporting my clients and I wasn't putting the oxygen mask on my face. And so, yeah, my little dog just loves attention. He doesn't like me talking to people. And this is his evening time. He's saying like, "Oh my God, it's evening time. You're done with your coaching calls. Give me attention." There. See, you can entertain everyone here who's watching. If you have a dog and your dog gets annoying, let me know in the chat. And if you love, moose coming in, also let me know. Okay, thank you. All right. So I hope this story inspires you to bet on yourself. It's a very difficult story for me to share. I will tell you that this morning I had a very bad migraine. Thankfully, I can manage these migraines now. I take this medication. It is called Ubrelvy, it is a miracle medication, to be honest. Um, but I think also when you are going through any type of, condition, happiness is a big factor on how quickly you recover. And you got to do work that brings you joy. I feel like a lot of people don't understand what that's like. I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why because I went through that in my corporate career, trying to find the answer, trying to figure out my career sweet spot. Feel free to read my story. It's on my website, nadabuhendi.com. Feel free to read it. But yeah, I was finding the answer. I was trying to find the answer myself in terms of what my career sweet spot is. And that's actually what got me into this line of work because I've studied a lot of frameworks and looked at some of the psychological triggers that contribute to people's happiness in their career. But I think it is increasingly difficult right now for people to be happy in their career because of the state of the world. There are a lot of things that are going on right now. They are positive in some ways because, having AI as an example, it makes our lives easier. I mean, gosh, I can just take recordings and recordings with clients and put them into Claude and extract all the insights and the things that I say that I've forgotten. And it helps me, come up with better, learning resources for my clients because of that. AI is really good at analyzing, large amounts of information. But the other thing with AI is it has made it very difficult for people to connect at an emotional level and to actually have these in-person connections. And it's actually why, this year I've been very intentional about building offline relationships. You might have seen some of my videos. If you go through my feed, you're going to see some collaborations with some friends who are coaches and business owners. And we did a podcast together. I'm actually thinking of launching an event in Toronto. So if you are in Toronto and you're interested in attending an in-person event, let me know in the comments and I will connect with you. But yeah, I think a big problem that we need to solve is how do we go back to the basics of building those relationships with each other? And this is very relevant from a career perspective. I feel with the introduction of AI, we became lazier when it comes to our communication, when it comes to thinking for ourselves. I mean, there are studies that have shown people who rely on AI, your IQ level drops if you've been using it for a very long period of time and you're using it in a way where you're delegating your thinking to it. And so we've become socially awkward as a society. This is why one of the biggest fears that my clients, come to me with is actually networking or having conversations with someone or reaching out. I mean, even in the dating space, gone the days where someone just walks up to someone in a bar and asks for their number. Gosh, I mean, when you're in the subway, God forbid you actually look at a stranger and try to have a conversation with them. And I think all of this is because our over reliance on technology, our over reliance on basically AI. And I'm not saying that we should stop using technology. I mean, for God's sake, I have been a technology leader for 15 years. I work with a lot of technology leaders. I'm not saying that you should stop using technology or that you should just become a farmer. But I'm saying that knowing that you have to be even more intentional of with, strengthening your communication muscle and building those offline relationships. This is why the program that I built is heavy on the community, because my vision is to really create a space, almost like a third home, for people to actually practice um, building those relationships, communicating with others. In fact, my program is like the perfect setting for people to form friendships, because my clients are all executives and leaders, people with more than 15 years of experience. They are all high achievers and very gifted at what they do, even if they've forgotten, even if they have imposter syndrome. And studies have shown that when you put a group of people together who have similar values, similar goals, and similar frustrations, they form meaningful bonds. So that's the reason I designed my program the way it is. And the reason I also designed it the way it is because I also believe that when it comes to our career, it really bothers me when I see all this crap about application tracking system and resume optimization and LinkedIn profile optimization and very granular tactical things about interviewing. That's not what blocks executives from landing roles. After studying this for more than 6 years and working closely with so many executives from director level to VP level to SVP level to C level, I have realized that a lot of the blockers are psychological and motivational issues, limiting beliefs, feeling trapped in golden handcuffs, feeling overwhelmed because you're so busy. You just don't have the time to like experiment and figure things out. You're not an individual contributor who has time to apply to 100 jobs. I mean, even individual contributors that I've worked with, I never encourage them to do that. And like any person in any situation where you are targeting a role, a goal that requires discipline and requires a structured way of tackling it, it's almost impossible to do this on your own. You need guidance, you need accountability, you need a good enough reason and motivation to actually follow through. Otherwise, what ends up happening, your coping mechanisms kick in. Just like my coping mechanisms were kicking in when I was in that 9-year relationship and I was compartmentalizing that person and convincing myself that it was okay to be with someone who didn't match my values. And I had this like separate persona of like work and girlfriend. I was a completely like how I was showing up at work was different from how I was showing up, in my personal life with that person. And so with a lot of you, the opposite is going on, where you're a different person at work, especially if you're miserable, you're putting on a mask, you're not being yourself. And maybe at home, like you are you with your kids, you are that fun person, you are that person who speaks up, you are that person who's passionate about quality and excellence. You're not there to just collect a paycheck, but that part of you has faded because you gave up on yourself. And so I hope that this story is going to inspire you to not give up on yourself and to take action. So, a little bit different today, thanks to the client that I just coached. I think he just brought my mojo up. I really helped him increase his confidence and his ability to, you know, communicate his value for his interview. And yeah, I did give him frameworks, but a lot of it is working with someone who believes in you and just having that discipline to meet with someone on a regular basis to help you tackle this. And someone who just gets you. It was funny because he forgot some of the things that he did in his initiative. And I kept reminding him because we've been working together for 3 months now. And I remember every single thing pretty much, that my clients share with me when it comes to the roles that they've done. We go deep. We go 10 years back. We look at every single initiative, and I ask relentless question after question until we get the gold out of them. You know, it's a lot more fun when you're trying to navigate a challenge with someone versus by yourself. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful night. And what I wanted to quickly say, that my door is open for you. Look, I know the hardest part is asking for help. The hardest part is actually admitting that you need to make a change. I know that was very tough for me, very tough for me when I made that decision to leave my partner. It's been now almost like a year now since I've left. Make that decision that I'm gonna, eat differently. Make that decision that I'm gonna do the physiotherapy, right? And so I want to normalize that, that decision does require bravery. But the reality is, you're not going to lose anything. And in full transparency, I'm not able to work with every single person. In fact, the way I built my practice is I really value going deep with every professional, which means I can only work with 3 people. I can only take on 3 people every month. Beyond that, it becomes very difficult to be able to follow up on each individual's case and understand it in depth and remember what every single person has done. And so that's the big reason behind it. But when you book a call with me, the bare minimum is that you're going to get more clarity on what's blocking you. A lot of people who have booked calls with me, they came out of our sessions understanding what they're doing wrong, because that can save you months and years of wasting time applying strategies or fixing something that doesn't need to be fixed, right? And then if there is synergy between us, if we align in terms of values, if you really like my approach, if you feel comfortable talking to me and I feel comfortable talking to you, then it would make sense to talk about the possibility of working together. So I'd love to invite you, because I don't always have that availability, every single day of the month. Because then, how the heck am I going to be able to coach clients if I'm on calls with thousands of people, right? Especially with a 47,000 following. But if you are listening, this could be a sign that, that the universe is, giving you to book this call and see what happens. So how do you book this call? Very simple. You go into my profile and you click the book an appointment button. That's how easy it is. And then you can click on book your career diagnosis. It takes you through a set of questions. They take 2 minutes to complete. This gives me an understanding of your situation and what's blocking you so that we can create a plan during our call. Okay, I am so excited. And as usual, if you have any questions for me, feel free to send me a DM as well. You can go into my profile and click on the message button. And one more thing, if you're going to send me a connection request, please do me a favor. Personalize it. Let me know that you watched this live so that I have some context. I do get a lot of people who send me connection requests, and I'm not able to add every single person. I have a 30,000 connection limit, and I'm at 20,000 right now. So I have to add people intentionally for that reason. All right. I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. Have a good night.